What is up, and welcome to Market Psychology 101, where we look for value in the markets when there's fear and are cautious when there's greed. In today's video, we are going to be taking a look at the Bitcoin rainbow chart as well as other Bitcoin macro charts and indicators. Let's start off with crypto fear and greed. And we've been going sideways for over a month in neutrality territory. However, we are seeing the Bitcoin fear and greed index start to fall towards the fear territory. So a little bit of a downtrend, and this is something we've noted that since we had this pump after April, after we had that giant capitulation back there with all the tariff scare stuff, that we were bordering extreme greed as well as greed, and just got rejected by that point. Now we are seeing a higher low here. Maybe this can be the start of some sort of turnaround in the structure. And something else that's important to note is that this really isn't surprising. When we take a look at Bitcoin's seasonality, August and September combined are the most negative months for crypto. So last year, I think with all the rate cuts, that could be something that maybe we can keep in mind for the end of this year. The Fed just cut rates. And last year, Bitcoin went from around 60,000 to eventually 109K. So went up by about 50,000 points. If Bitcoin were to do something similar, as far as points overall, getting over 155K or percentage-wise towards 200K, that would be, of course, a good thing for crypto. So just remember, October and November, the two strongest months back-to-back overall for crypto. Of course, April and May tend to be pretty good too. But if we get a Santa Claus rally this year, that will be very nice for Bitcoin. Now, as I talk about Bitcoin during today's video, I am going to dive into Ethereum, Bitcoin pairing, total 3, the total market cap of the altcoin market and things such as that. So something to keep in mind with this is that the crypto cycles tend to top around here when we get Altseason. The last two crypto cycles had Altseason in the couple weeks following the top. Now, we did get a secondary top and a mini Altseason last cycle, though last cycle was strange with all the quantitative easing and the money printing and all that. But 2017 cycle as well. From these peaks, the couple of weeks that follow, we do get an Altseason in here, and that happens when Bitcoin is too expensive to buy and keep buying and get that massive rotation. So right now, as of now, we are in phase 2 where Ethereum is outperforming Bitcoin, but I think there's still a little bit of a ways to go. We want to see the large caps start doing really good as well. And Ethereum, I do think it can get above and stay above former all-time highs, and then will truly be into phase 2, though we are right now. Something to keep in mind, old chart, but it's always worth the reminder that on the way to the top, we are going to get pullbacks, and a number of pullbacks. 2017, look at all those 30 to 40% pullbacks. There were 30% pullbacks in here. So on the way to the top, there are decent sized pullbacks. Again, we are looking for that topping structure where Bitcoin is too expensive to keep buying and we get that rotation. So there are indicators I will go through to show you when that might be. Now, as far as altcoin year, I think this is somewhat of a glitch. It was somewhere around 1,328 days since the last alt season. All of a sudden, we get this big spike up. If we go to some of the smaller time frames, I mean, it is up there on the monthly, and then let's see, altcoin season, this one is more so the daily structure. I mean, it is up there micro-wise, but we've had this before, so I do wonder if on blockchaincenter.net this is somewhat of an error. We'll see what happens, but yeah, that is quite a strange spike, and we'll take a look at the charts. Now, as far as the log regression, I've been talking a lot about how the Bitcoin peaks get to these lower log regression bands. Log scale is factor of 10. Regression means the strength flattens out over time, as you see reflected in this chart. So Bitcoin, it is in this yellow band as of right now, which is the lower area around 108K. But again, going back to these diminishing peaks, I'm looking for somewhere in the orange zones for whenever we get a Bitcoin top. Let's say we get a Bitcoin top middle of December. You can see those orange boxes go from 150 to 250K, and that solid orange box is just a little under 200K. I think that is a topping area. It makes a lot of sense for Bitcoin. Now on my channel, I talk about other cryptos. I talk about other crypto assets such as Bitcoin mining stocks, and I started doing YouTube shorts on various altcoins. So if there are any altcoins that you would like for me to do some quick technical analysis of, comment them below, and I'll try my best to do a YouTube short on one of those sometime in the near future. Now, as far as Bitcoin goes, we see this inverse head and shoulders trend line. It's even more apparent on the daily. There we go. Inverse head and shoulder. Really haven't had the full range of move above it, but we can see back on the weekly that Bitcoin is staying underneath that trend line. So that trend line does continue to be relevant. Let's add on our moving averages. The 20-week moving average is right there at around 110K. Yeah, you can see Bitcoin pretty much tag the 100-day moving average. Now this is EMA. Maybe the SMA, it did already tag pretty well, but you do see the candle body holding up nicely using Heikenashi's on the 50-day average, and that is a nice good spike down to the 100. So if that 50 does lose support, the 100 did hold up. Now within this overall structure, from the bottom that we saw back in June, let's draw a Fibonacci retracement from low to high, and you can see that bottoming structure, we had a 618 retracement. Now came back up to the 236 at 117.7 almost perfectly, and rejected down from there. But we have the 50-day, we have the 382, some good support. That trend line isn't lost yet, but if we start getting underneath, I'll say if we start seeing candle bodies under 113.7, I would get a little bit concerned that, if the 100 and that doesn't hold up. We do have the 200-day moving average coming up here to that 618 once again. So that would be, at worst, at around 107K. Now let's zoom out again. Let's take a look at crypto underneath a few other lenses, shall we? And a couple of my favorite lenses are the Stochastic RSI as well as the MACD. As we can see here on the weekly, overall this is a good thing. The weekly Stochastic RSI is starting to flip up a little bit. So the last time we had the Stochastic flip back up into the shaded area, we were getting ready for a decent sized move. You can see Bitcoin going there from 85, and by the time it peaked around 106K, so a 20,000 point move. That's what the Stochastic's showing. The MACD did tease us a little bit, showing that maybe we're reversing structure, but came back down again. So MACD still is yet to confirm that move, flip up. And as far as the monthly, we are getting somewhat of a reset. We're waiting for the monthly to flip positive, dark green, and to the upside as well. So I am wondering if we're in somewhat of a late 2020 type of scenario where we could see Bitcoin going back up towards a cycle top sometime soon. All right, let's go back to the weekly. Like I was talking about earlier with the Bitcoin rainbow chart, looking at the orange zone, seeing that area at the dark orange box right there at around 200K or a little bit underneath it. A couple things lend me to believe that could be an area for a cycle top. One of which, you guys can see how I have this fib retracement high to low from the last cycle. We also have this major fib. When we take our fib off log and we look at these fib extensions, you can see that we have the 2618 at 155K and the 3618 at 210K. Now last cycle, Bitcoin got up into the 3618, 4236 area. Remember, we have log regression. So Those fib markers, we should be hitting lower marks each time, albeit we did have inflation, so we'll see. So that 3618 target at around 210K, I do think that could be a potential area for a cycle top. We have the pi cycle high-low indicator, and that pi cycle high, we've seen Bitcoin run into it, get above it last cycle, run into it March 24. We see that pi cycle high-low kind of near where that 3618 is, around 210K. Right now it's at 194. Now keep in mind, if Bitcoin starts moving up, so will that pi cycle top, even though it can happen very quickly. So that 200K area does look pretty solid. And then when we add in our log regression indicator, where we can see Bitcoin topped last cycle as well, our log regression band, it tops out right around that area of the 3618. So pi cycle, 3618, log regression. I think there's a lot to show here that the range between 155 and 210K is a good area for a top. Now, last week I did a video on Bitcoin dominance and took more of a deep dive into that. So I'm not going to talk too much about it, but something's happening that I think we were ready for, and that is we drew out this fib high to low from last cycle, Bitcoin dominance high to low. This means 58.6% all money in cryptos in Bitcoin. And we saw that we were at the 618 fib, the 100-week moving average, and it was just a very strong area of support. So we're not getting that alt season yet. I do wonder, do we have a buy signal on this? Yeah, that shows momentum to the upside. So we'll see. Bitcoin dominance, I'm curious to see if it does continue up. We could see alts bleed for a hot minute now if this continues. But watch this 50-week moving average around 60%, see what happens. And just keep in mind, last couple cycles, after the cycle top for Bitcoin dominance, we revisit it again and then get alt season. Even the 2017 cycle, to an extent, before we got alt season at this peak, we were here for a bit and we revisited it and then got alt season. So I do wonder this time around, are we going to revisit somewhere around the 66% area and then die, or might this just cascade down? You never know, but that's something I'm looking for. Do watch what happens there at 66%. Total 3, the Heikin-Ashi candles are getting rejected by the former all-time high, and so we want to see total 3 break through. And we've discussed this, that total 3 is a good alt season indicator. And last cycle, when total 3 broke above the former all-time high at around 360 billion, look at the date right here. It was February of 2021, so it wasn't too much longer until we got alt season. That was towards the end of alt season. This is right in the heart of it. So it's about 70 to 84 days. So let's say 2 to 3 months from that time. So right now, total 3, the Heikin-Ashi candles are very good at showing us if the candle bodies aren't getting above, then we do want to beware. And like I was just showing you with Bitcoin dominance, if Bitcoin dominance is getting ready to go back up, we might see total 3 come back down to this 888 area and the 20-week moving average at around 980 billion. We also have this large channel here and the 50 weeks. So might get as low as the high 800s, but again, still well within the structure. Others dominance. This is the total market cap outside the top 10 cryptos, so everything valued underneath Cardano at all the market caps, and the others dominance is 13% of the crypto world. Got rejected there. Again, you see how all these indicators converge. The 0.5 fib as well as the 50 moving average got rejected there. Might come back down to that 382 area at 0.12. And that would be good, actually. If we come down to the 0.12 and start going back up, that would be a higher low. I'd love that structure. I think that'd be very nice. Tether dominance. This Tether dominance is good at showing us where the macro highs can be for Bitcoin. Whenever Tether dominance is truly falling, the Bitcoin tops coincide with it. And right now, I think we're seeing a little bit of bullish structure. So I would not be shocked to see somewhere around 5%. We do have this macro trend line that gets to the mid-low 5%. area, but we have the 100, the 200, the 236 here. And again, overall, as I'm looking for that Bitcoin cycle top, we have the 100-month moving average and this lower low trend line right at around 3.6%. I think that can be a very good area to find out where the next Bitcoin cycle top can be. Let's go to ETH Bitcoin. And then, so earlier in the video, I talked about how we're in phase 2. Talked about this a little bit in the Bitcoin dominance video, but I think it is worth revisiting. And this is playing out pretty well. So just taking a step back, if you're new to my channel, you're wondering, what does ETH Bitcoin mean? This means that ETH Bitcoin being at 0.22 is that Ethereum's market cap is 22. That's what 0.22 means. If you're ever calculating percentages, you'll use a decimal, like 85% is 0.85 on your calculator. So if you calculate 504 billion of Ethereum's market cap into Bitcoin's 2.247 trillion, that is 22% of it. So here at the 0.22, and what happens is we get those cycle tops or that Altseason as Ethereum Bitcoin pumps up. I can show you that in a couple different ways. So first, let's add on Bitcoin. Let's make sure we know where Bitcoin is topping. So Bitcoin, you see it. This is Bitcoin, the pink background chart. You see it topping down here. And then last cycle, you see Bitcoin topping right here. Okay, right before these big large moves up where Ethereum Bitcoin goes from 0.2 to 0.5, and here where Ethereum Bitcoin went from around 0.2 to 0.5, 0.6, all right? So that's, you see the comparison with Bitcoin. Now let's compare with Ethereum, okay? And with Ethereum, let's, a little bit of a computer freeze there, apologize. With Ethereum, you'll notice, okay, the top is different. It's not down here. It's a little bit to the right. And again, that's why Ethereum Bitcoin moves up, because the value of Ethereum really rockets against that of Bitcoin. So you see right here. And then even to recently, you see Ethereum doing pretty well, albeit Ethereum having a little bit of a downward movement right now, but that's to be expected. Okay, nothing moves in a straight line. Even when we're bullish, we can chop sideways. Let's put on our moving averages again. And again, this is just showing us when, I want to answer the essential question for you guys. When are we going to get Altseason? Now, I won't predict a date. I don't want you to get fall into that trap either, but I'll show you what to look for when those indicators will show you when we're getting here. We're already well in the phase 2. We can see that, okay? Ethereum Bitcoin has doubled since the bottom. Went from 0.11 all the way near the bottom to 0.22, even as high as 0.26, okay? Now we got rejected from the high to low Fibonacci retracement at the 0.5, as well as the 100-week moving average. So Bitcoin dominance, others dominance, all these, total 3. I hope you are seeing, if you're watching my videos, how all these charts work together in different ways. Even though they're showing different things, they tend to rhyme with each other in some nice ways. And that's how we could tell that, there was a lot of resistance coming up here on Bitcoin. There's a lot of support on Bitcoin dominance. So it makes sense to get a little bit of a pullback. And I am wondering, when we break above the 50-week moving average, we are bullish. When we break above the macro 382 fib and a Fibonacci, by the way, that's our golden ratio. You can look that up if you want to learn more about it. But when we're above the 382, above the 50, we are bullish. So I want to see, even if we get a little bit of a pullback here for altcoins, I want to see this show good support and then us get through that resistance at the 0.5 and 100. Maybe we'll get a little bit more resistance here at around the 618 and the 200-day moving average. But if we could bounce there and then start heading 0.4 to 0.5, I want you to notice something. Every time Ethereum Bitcoin has bottomed and then gotten above its 0.3, we were truly into Altseason here above the 0.3. So January 1st, we're above 0.3. We were well in the Altseason. Here is, you see there's a rejection there at 0.3, but we were into alt season there. Early May, we were well in the alt season getting above 0.3. So we're knocking on the door, guys and ladies and everyone watching. We're knocking on the door. 0.3, it's right here. I think the structure is setting up nicely. We might get one more rejection or just rocket through. Who knows? But that, just the way I drew this out, could end up being somewhere around December for that time. So just put a nice bow on things. Yes, we are getting a little bit of a pullback here for Bitcoin. That's okay. That's to be expected. 102K for me is the line in the sand. I don't think we have to get there. But if we did, that would be a can't miss dip buying opportunity because it's near that 1618 and the 50. But I do like on the daily chart here, how we showed on our fibs from low to high. I do like that 618 to 0.5 area. If we get down there and alts have bleeded pretty well, and we see Bitcoin dominance topping out around some of these moving averages, then I think that might be a good area to dollar cost average in some alts. By the way, here Bitcoin dominance, we should talk about this quick. This is on the daily time frame, and you can see in this bearish move, first time we've gotten above that 20-day moving average. We wrote it down, but then as we hit that 618, we are now bullish. So hopefully we're just going to be putting in a macro lower high before breaking back down under that 618. So thank you guys so much for watching, being here today, and I hope you have a fantastic Monday and rest of your week. Take care.